Hey everybody. Okay, so I promised I would get on and share some intel that I got at the end of 2021 about some things that were coming in the future. So I've had a good look at the intel and I'm going to share some of the stuff to help us see where we're at and also some solutions to help us prepare for where we're going. Okay. So some of the things that the Lord told me about was things that have come to pass, and there's some things that are still yet to come to pass. So some of the things that have come to pass, He told me in 2021 that there would be times of revolt and that people would rise up against tyranny. So I felt like that has come to pass, and it's also coming to pass in the future. It's going to get bigger and more active. It started with all of the protests in the lockdowns and everything, and so people started to rise up and have a voice. They were rising up against tyranny, and so there would also be a place where many would hang themselves in guilt because of what has gone on over the last few years, and it will, like I said, some of this is going to continue to happen, and there's going to be other things that are going to happen which will bring about some things where there would be trials of deceivers and manipulators, and there would be a cry for mercy, not judgment, and then their guilt would actually hang themselves. Would make them hang themselves. Now, don't think as in physically people are hanging themselves. It would be like a noose around their neck, where it was like the guilt and the obviousness of the revealing of things that have gone on and will go on in the future will be a place where their guilt will be obvious, that they were guilty. There will be things that will come out that will show that they are guilty. It won't be anyone having to try and prove it. It'll speak for itself, those sorts of things. Another thing I heard in 2021 was the words COVID ends as fast as it begins. And so I saw that people would go back to life as usual. They would be happy just to go back to life as normal, that they would forget the injustices that were done to them, to some of them, and that would be around the time when there would also be a great noose that would be tied around people's necks that did things that weren't right, and that would be part of all of that time of revolt and that place where the truth would actually begin to come out. And so there would be hidden things that would be made open in the process of that and moving forward as well. So what I'm saying is that some of it has already occurred, but will also continue to occur in the future. There is a place where nations would rise against each other, and like I said, the same as what it is before. Nations have begun to rise against each other, but also there will be places where nations will continue to rise against each other. It's like that place where it's wars and rumors of wars. So there would be places that would rise up against each other, kingdoms that would rise up against each other, nations would rise up against each other. We see China and Taiwan, we see Russia and Ukraine, we see Israel having the issues in Israel, and that even in those things, that there would be a game plan that would fall apart at the seams, and things would start to come to light, even all about those sorts of things. And many would be in shock as to see who is on the boat of blame in these sorts of situations. And we have seen that over the course of some time with even those wars. There has been many times where things have been in the news about certain people being involved that were hiding behind the scenes. There was situations that were happening that were fueling things. There was other things that were going on within the internal workings of nations. And so those things have happened and also will happen. So some of these things are signposts, if you want to say, that the Lord was saying, okay, these sorts of things are going to start happening. And when these things start happening and you see these things start happening, then we will be getting closer to, closer and closer to his return. And so these are signs, these are wonders, these are things that are happening in the earth at the moment to help us know that these are signs that it's getting closer. Now, if you want a date, you don't have a date. Nobody has a date. But these are the things that we can look at and say, okay, these things are happening, and so it means that we are moving closer to the end of the age. And we know that. We know that we are in the end times. Whether we're in the beginning of the end times, the middle of the end times, or the end of the end times, it's not for me to say. I could say something, but I choose not to. But we are in God's plan and purpose for this season, this time. We're called for such a time as this right now. And these are the things that I've seen. And as I've heard them and then seen them start to come to play, I'm like, okay. So another thing was that in 2021, the Lord told me that Julian Assange would be exonerated. And I was like, okay, that's going to have to be a really big one. He's been in the news for a really long time. And even in the last year or so, there's been talk about them extraditing him back to where he needs to stand trial. And so I was like, well, that doesn't look like he's going to be exonerated. And then on the 24th of the 6th, 2024, he was basically exonerated. He wasn't exonerated, but he's been seen to have already paid most of his dues because of the sentence that he already was in. And so I'm sure there'll be more about that come out, but I'm still waiting for the exact, okay, he's been exonerated. But these sorts of things, when these things start to come into play, it's like there's signs to help us to see, okay, there's something going on here that's bigger than just signs. And so there was another one that was something the Lord told me in the end of 2021. He said, times they are a-changing. It's time for the hands of justice to ring the bell. And so I was waiting for something specific time-wise to happen with a clock or something. And on the 24th of the 5th, 24, Big Ben stopped. Big Ben is the clock in London. It is in the Elizabeth Tower, and it chimed at 10:06 instead of at 10 a.m. It's the first time it's ever happened in, I don't know, some ridiculous amount of time. It's one of the most accurate clocks in the world. It goes completely straight off, like Greenwich Mean Time, those sorts of things. And so Big Ben struck at the wrong time, and I was looking for something to do with London at the same time that the Lord had also told me, and it was about the Queen being dethroned and that her grandson would take the throne. And so we all know that the Queen, she died on the 8th of the 9th, 2022. That wasn't going to be a super surprise. We knew she was getting closer to it because she is getting old. And so the correlation between Big Ben chiming and the Queen being dethroned, I started to look and watch in the news like, okay, so the Queen's passed away, which means she's basically been dethroned because she's not on the throne anymore. And then when he said to me that the grandson would take over, I was watching to see what would happen in that situation. So now in the latest news, we have things like King Charles has cancer, but also I saw before they released that King Charles had cancer in November in 2023, I saw a news article where they were talking about a 5-year plan to put William on the throne. So that was before he even talked about him having cancer this year. And so there's things in motion. And then if you watch the news, it seems to share what actually he's been talking about. So we had Big Ben chiming, we had the Queen being dethroned, and then I saw a news article. There's actually lots of them out at the moment. They're talking about lots about William taking the throne earlier than he was supposed to. Would he abdicate? Would Charles abdicate? All those sorts of different things. And so the reason why he told me that one was he said to me that there would be a restructuring of their schemes to rework their plan. And that was the place where God said, but remember that I am still on the throne. So these are all signs. These are all things that he's like, okay, there's things that are coming. There's things that you need to watch out for, because he said the reason why he would show me that these things would start to happen in the media, start to happen in the real world, was because we were drawing closer to a really hard period of time in the world. And so lots of things he has told me to share in bits and pieces over the course of the last few years, because you don't want to put too much out there at the one time, because you don't want to cause fear and you don't want things out there just because. And so some of the things that he's been talking to me about that we needed to do in preparation for these hard years that are coming is a lot of it is to do with intimacy with the Lord. A lot of it is to do with drawing near to God, salvation. Make sure you are you are wholly saved, and I don't mean that as in like there's more saving I have to do, but we have to be in intimacy with Him. We have to understand who we're called to be. We have to walk through a process of dying to self, a process of dealing with our heart issues, dealing with offenses, dealing with all these different things, because as the days get darker, the glory of the Lord will rise upon those who are His. And so that's that place where He will need His bride to be pure and spotless. He will need those with clean hands and pure hearts to rise. And so in the preparation for what is to come, something He is actually saying that is very, very important is that you need to be in intimacy with Him. You need to be close to Him. You need to be able to hear His heart, hear His voice, trust Him. Teach your children to trust Him. Teach your children to know Him. Teach your family to know Him well, to hear His voice, to know who He is, because you will not get hoodwinked, because that's some of those things that it says in the talks about the end times, is that many were deceived. You need to teach your family, and you need to know who God is, so that you will not be deceived. You need to trust Him completely. You need to hear what He is saying specifically for you. So some of those things would be learning to listen to His voice, and also learning to trust Him for provision, and learning not to worry, learning to trust Him in every situation, asking for angelic aid in situations. That there would be a time when many were saved because of our walk of intimacy with Him. So as we walk out this process of understanding how to trust Him in every situation, how to seek Him for provision, how to see Him move in supernatural ways, there will be a place where others will see what is happening for us, and they will say, I don't understand how you are surviving through this, how you are thriving in this, how you are moving forward in this, and I am not. And it will be a place where your walk will speak louder than what words can possibly speak. At the moment, I felt like he was saying that we are in a place where he is moving chess pieces on the board. There is a place where he is a time of moving people, like on chessboards, into the right places. He's moving all the pieces on the chessboard into the right places. He's moving people locationally into the place where they need to be, where they will be the most effective in the times to come. He is moving people locally, geographically. He's moving people into different houses. He's moving people into different jobs, into different church understanding. He's moving people into their callings, their purposes, their destinies. He's moving families. He's moving he's moving things all the time. And so at the moment, that is actually where we're at. We're in a place of moving and shifting. That's why we're in that threshold place where we're crossing over, and part of the crossing over is the structurally moving, is the locality moving, is the geographical moving, is the moving of jobs, is the moving of connections with people, and those sorts of things, because this is like a breather period. It would be a place where we need to ask him, what do we need to do in this time to prepare for what is coming as a family. It has to be a personal conversation with the Lord, because you have to trust him with what he tells you to do, because it can't be just me telling you this is what everybody's going to do, it is what everyone is going to do, but it needs to be a personal conversation with the Lord. It needs to be a personal walk with the Lord, because you will have to stand on those things as the days come, and your family will have to stand on these things as the days come. And so I think that that's probably where we're at the moment. There's probably more I could probably share, but I won't share at this point in time, because I feel that's all the Lord is asking me and requiring of me to share. There's other signs that are starting to come out in the media at the moment. So just be looking. Ask the Lord, what are the signs? It's not just that I can see the signs. He's sharing them with people. He's sharing them so that you know what you're supposed to be looking for, what's supposed to be happening. And so just be encouraged. He's got his eye on his bride at the moment. He's moving them strategically. He's shifting them around, and he's requiring us to walk in intimacy, greater levels of intimacy than we've ever walked before, greater levels of personal encounter, personal trust, personal knowing him in our personal lives and in our families. Teach your children, train your children, show them who they are created to be, even as children. Ask the Lord for specific ways to help them understand it in whatever age group that they are in. The Holy Spirit always has amazing ways to teach and train your kids. I've done it many a times with my kids. I'm like, Holy Spirit, you need to teach me how to share this with my kids, what to share, how much to share, what to do with them in this period of time. He's got the best answers, because that's part of the walking in intimacy with him, walking closely with him, because then you build a relationship with him, which you will need in the days to come. So I hope that encourages you. I hope that makes sense, and share in the comments below what you think is happening, what's going on, what you've seen, if you've seen anything as well. I'd love to hear your opinions about it all.